Yo, it's your boy TB, and we're back with another banger of a... No, I'm playing. I'm not... We are back with another banger because that is indeed all that your boy drops. I've already dropped the point guard. I've dropped the shooting guards. Now it's time for the small forwards. It's that time of the year where we talking about the top 10 players at each position going into 2023. This is the small forwards video. Let's get into it. I don't really usually do honorable mentions, but for this video I will, because I kind of felt like I needed to, because there were some guys that deserved to be on the list but didn't, and I kind of want to explain real quick. So there's 3 honorable mentions. Scotty Barnes is one of them. I didn't really see any improvement from his rookie season to this season, and the changes that we did see, they were mostly for the worse. So that's why he didn't really make it on this list. Then Keldon Johnson, he was very, very close to top 10, but he wasn't quite better than anyone else on the list. I couldn't quite put him over anyone. And then Bojan Bogdanovic, who had a career year, great year, 20 points per game. But again, just like Keldon Johnson, he was not better than any of the guys on this list. And there are some guys that I considered shooting guards. If y'all go look at that video, which y'all should if you haven't already. So go look at that, because of course, I left those guys out of this list because they were shooting guards to me. But at number 10, we have Jerami Grant. Now, he got a bag this year. He's one of the biggest bag getters this offseason aside from Fred VanVleet. Now, Jerami Grant, he is a versatile forward on the offensive end and defensive end. He provided immediate defensive help for the Trailblazers, and he's always had a strong suit on the defensive end. But he's also become a reliable 20-point per game scorer, which is why he probably earned his contract. Now, we can all admit this contract was an overpay, but there's no denying that Jerami Grant is a top 10 player at his position, and there is an argument he might be a slightly higher. I can only say slightly. So comment down below if my next choice should probably be 10 instead of him, and that is Franz Wagner. Now, Franz Wagner, he's a young talent that is going to take the league by storm very, very soon, alongside Paolo Banchero. That's going to be a troublesome duo going forward, mark my words. But part of me feels like I have him higher than Jerami because of who I would rather have moving forward, and clearly that's Franz Wagner. He's younger, and obviously he has a lot more upside. I don't necessarily think that means Franz is better than Jerami right now, so that's why I say maybe Franz could be at 10, Jerami at 9. Nonetheless, Franz is in his second year. He's already almost a 20 points per game guy, and really his efficiency is one of the few places he needs to improve. But of course, that comes with age. You're not expecting that out of a second or third year player. Franz is going to be great offensively. We know this. And if he can improve slightly on the other end, that defensive end, he could be a guy that helps a contender like our next player on this list, who did that in 2020, and that is Kyle Kuzma. Now, I know as of recently, Kyle Kuzma has been listed as a power forward very often, and I think he was listed as a power forward in his last year with the Lakers. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm gonna keep it a bean. Let's be real. Bro is a small forward. Like, stop the cap.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now.
So I'm going to treat him as such. Now, Kyle Kuzma is another versatile forward on the offensive end with both shooting and his dribbling abilities. Kuz came off of a career season prior to this year averaging 17, 3, and 8, and then he outperformed that this year averaging 21, 3, and 7. Now, obviously, the areas of improvement were primarily in the actual scoring and the efficiency of the scoring. But I think Kuz is at that point in his career where he knows what he is as a player. And it's pretty much a 20-point guy, 3 assist guy, and around 7 to 8 rebounds per game. And on a good year, career year, probably 10 rebounds once he gets to that point. Now, he's already been the 4th option to a championship team, as I said before. I think he's at the point in his career where he thinks he can, and I think he can, be a 2nd or 3rd option on a contender, so long as he can find himself on a team of that caliber, like the next player on the list, who was the 3rd option on this year's Champions Nuggets, and that is Michael Porter Jr. Now, MPJ was a bit undersold coming into this season, coming off of an injury the season prior. In year 2, he was a 20-point per game player, and had he not gotten hurt, I'm sure he would have been back to that form. Though, a year later, we did finally get to see that that player was back again. And obviously, the rest of this team was back, and there wasn't going to be much changing regarding his production and this team being force in the West. Now, watching MPJ this season, he has become a mature scorer, and when the Nuggets needed a big shot late and his number was called, he always answered, even if it was the tough shot with the hand straight in his face. Now, hopefully he can start to string together a couple seasons like last year and his year 2 season. And I think he understands what it takes to remain healthy, so he probably will. And I expect him to continue to show why he was one of the biggest prospects coming out of high school despite his back issue. Moving on to number 6, we have Brandon Ingram. Now, Brandon Ingram started the year off very hot for about the first month of the year, averaging 20 points per game in that span. After that, he got hurt and he ended up missing 29 straight games. Now, despite this hiccup early in the year, when BI came back, he was at one of his best forms I had ever seen. In his first 10 games back, he had 4 30-point games, and he shot almost 50% from the field and 43% from 3. And despite his team missing the playoffs, he ended the season with a 42-point performance against Minnesota, where he shot 57% from the field, which is insane. Mark my words now, let Brandon Ingram find a clean bill of health all year, all season, and he's gonna be a 2-time All-Star by the end of 2024. Mark my words. Y'all could bookmark this, screenshot it, whatever you want to do. Just remember, when he's a 2-time All-Star, come back to this video. And at number 5, and I think this dude is ceiling is probably number 5. 4 might be a ceiling now that I'm looking at who number 4 is. But at number 5, I have Demar DeRozan, another mid-range scoring assassin. And I'm going to be honest, he's been in a tough position since he got to Chicago. The Bulls in general have been in a tough position between Lonzo's knee, Caruso getting hurt, and just overall coaching. You know, they extended their coach under the table without people knowing. It's just a whole fiasco going on in Chicago. Just poverty franchise activities, I'm not gonna lie. DeMar, for him, he technically had a down year, but he is coming off of a career year, so that isn't really, it's not saying much, and it's not anything to be alarmed by. Now, of course, we know DeMar wouldn't be a number 1 on a championship team. We get that, we've seen that at this point, and the Bulls, they're not gonna be a championship team, so he's going nowhere fast. Now, if DeMar and the Bulls can figure out a way for the Bulls to start this rebuild like they truly have been needing to do for years now, and trade him to a contender, get some assets or something, give him a chance to win before he retires. I'd love to see it. I mean, granted, he has had chances to win, but he's had to, you know, match up with LeBron. But besides that, like after LeBron, what LeBron is now, you know, give DeMar a chance. You feel me? He might make the most of it. But at number 4, he does have to go through this guy, and that's Jimmy Butler. Anybody in the East honestly has to go through Jimmy Butler at this point. Yes, Boston is a contender, but you still gotta go through Jimmy Butler. Everybody gotta go through Jimmy Butler. And realistically, this is why Jimmy is number 4. We already know. He admitted to us he takes the regular season off. It's crazy. And despite the Jimmy Butler postseason hype that we do have and know, many do argue Gabe Vincent or Caleb Martin should have won that Eastern Conference MVP. Now, whether you think Jimmy deserved it or not, what can't be argued is the presence he brings his team and their culture. He's the heart and the driving force behind an 8 seed making the finals while beating 2 of the favorites in their conference. I guarantee without Jimmy Butler on this team, 1, they don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and 2, I don't care if you have Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin, regardless, you're not winning that series. You're not up 3-1 without Jimmy Butler. So we're not gonna act like, you know, Jimmy Butler is just, it's just nasty work. But I will say this, Jimmy's numbers won't really wow you. I'll admit that. Unless it's really a game that matters, then you'll see why Jimmy is top 5 in the league at his position. And I'm not gonna lie, when it's a game that truly matters and Jimmy actually gives a fuck, he might just be top 3 in the league. But for now, we're gonna keep him at number 4 in his position. And we're going to move to top 3 in his position, who has been top 3 in the league at some point in time, and that's Kawhi Leonard. Now, make no mistake about Kawhi. He's not someone you can count on availability-wise. I'm the first to admit that. But when he is there, he is a top 10 player in the NBA regardless. And before he got hurt in Phoenix, let's admit, he was cooking them. He was going crazy. And in those 2 games, he averaged almost 40 points on 54% shooting and 60% from 3, which is fucking bananas when you're really thinking about it. If he never got hurt, Paul George comes back in the second round like we expected. Russell Westbrook is doing his thing like he has been doing for that Clippers team. We might be talking about a different team as defending champs. Not to say that the Clippers would have won the finals. But I am saying the Clippers might have had a fair shot to stop that Denver team. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna just leave the hypotheticals to you guys and, just figure that one out. We're gonna move on to number 2. This one might ruffle some feathers, and it is for the first time ever in his career, and I mean ever. LeBron James is number 2. He is the second best small forward in the NBA. Y'all are going to be shocked by number 1, but y'all going to have to let me land with number 1. Y'all going to have to hear me out with that one. 2 things with LeBron. He's lost to step 1. And 2, though he did play amazingly for his age, and he is 38 going on 39, 40. Age isn't going to lift you in terms of how good you are at your position. Sure, it's unbelievable what you're doing in the league at this age. He's 38 and he's one of the top scorers in the league still. But that doesn't change the fact that you are not the best at your position anymore. And it just is what it is. I can't boost you because of your age. That becomes an unfair category to boost a player in terms of rankings, because obviously you can't control when you're born. We can't control LeBron was born way back whenever that was, and that's just the plain hard truth to it. And at this point, love LeBron, but he's second best at his position. And the first best player at his position right now, currently as it stands in the NBA, it's Jayson Tatum. Honestly, now that I say that, Jayson Tatum might just be the best two-way player in the NBA. Like, it sounds crazy, but sit there and let that marinate for a second. First of all, he is a elite defender. If you go back and watch that Heat series in the Eastern Conference Finals, stunk it up offensively. Just awful. As soon as they went down 3-1, watch Jayson Tatum on the defensive end and watch the job he does on Jimmy Butler for the rest of that series. Come back to me and tell me he's not an elite defender, for one. 2, we know the skill set and talent he has on the offensive end. And I'm not buying into this hype that he sucks or he fell off or any of that, because he had a down playoff run. Admittedly, it wasn't even that bad of a playoff run. He got off to some rough starts in games, but if you look at it in its totality, it wasn't that bad. And Jayson Tatum, he's close to being an MVP candidate, whether y'all like it or not. He did have an up and down year, and his playoffs were disappointing. But recency bias aside, he is supremely talented and one of, if not the best player on the Celtics, because a lot of people do say Jaylen Brown. So that's why I say one of, if not the best. At some point in his career, Jayson Tatum is going to be an NBA champion, I believe. Some people might not believe that, but I will say this. By the end of this year, this basketball season, Jayson Tatum will be in the MVP candidacy, not because by default, because he's on one of the best teams in the league. He is the best player on it. Obviously, that's going to get him in that conversation naturally, but his play, and it's going to show from game 1 to game 82. Mark my words. But that's all I got for you guys in this one. This was my top 10 small forwards going into 2023. Let me know how I did. Tell me your top 10 below. Y'all haven't been doing that. I'm kind of disappointed, I ain't gonna lie, but it's all right. I ain't gonna be disappointed for too long. I can't be too mad at you for too long. But that's all I got for you guys in this video. It's your boy TB with the greatest hoop stories and debates on the tube. And if you're new and if you haven't already, subscribe. I'm out. Peace.